In the south of France, the very land where Mary Magdalene is said to have fled to, mysterious cults exist, side by side. In the ancient, shadowy crypts of great cathedrals like Chartres, pilgrims bow before hundreds of strange, unsettling statues. The Black Madonnas, and just miles away, in the coastal town of Saint-Maries-de-la-Mer, the Romani people of Europe gather every year in a wild, ecstatic festival. They carry a different statue into the sea, a black princess they call Saint Sara-la-Kâli. The official story from the church? It's simple. They claim the Black Madonnas are just dirty, that they are statues of the Virgin Mary, darkened by centuries of candle smoke. And Saint Sara, they say she was merely an Egyptian servant who arrived on the boat with Mary Magdalene. These explanations are simple, they are clean, and they are, almost certainly, a lie. What if these two cults are not separate at all? What if both stories are just cover stories, clever codes designed to hide a truth the church could not afford to have known? What if the black in both statues is not a color, but a symbol? A symbol for the forbidden, the hidden, the Gnostic. And what if the figure they are both secretly worshipping is not the Virgin Mary, and not a servant named Sara, but the one woman the church tried to erase, Mary Magdalene, and the Gnostic wisdom she represented? Before we begin, I want this to be more than just a video. I want it to be a gathering of truth seekers. If you are facing any struggle in your life, any battle or any pain, I invite you to write your prayer request in the comments now. We are a community that believes in the power of prayer, and we will lift you up. If you believe it's time to break the code, comment with the hidden title herself, the Black Madonna. Each time you like this video, you help another truth seeker find their way to this community. And by subscribing, you are not just joining a channel, you are taking a stand with us, affirming that these hidden stories must be told. We are in this together. Now, prepare yourself. We are about to decode the mystery of Saint Sara. To break the code, we must first look at the woman at the center of the Romani festival, Saint Sara, also known as Sara-la-Kâli. The official church legend, the one told to tourists, is brief. It claims she was an Egyptian servant who was on the boat that miraculously washed ashore in the south of France. But let's look at who was on that boat. The legend says it carried Mary Magdalene, Mary Salome, and Mary Jacobi, the three Marys. Fleeing persecution after the Crucifixion, they were cast out to sea in a boat with no oars and no sails. With them was Lazarus, Martha, and Sara. The church legend paints Sara as a minor character, a helper, a footnote to the story. But this official story immediately presents us with three glaring intentional codes. The first code is her origin, Egyptian. In the coded language of the 1st and 2nd centuries, Egypt was not just a place on a map. For the Gnostics, for the mystics, for the Hermetic schools, Egypt was the source. It was the land of Chem, the Black Land, named for the fertile black soil of the Nile. It was the home of Thoth and Hermes, the birthplace of alchemy. It was the land of the goddess Isis, the queen of heaven, the holder of all wisdom, who was often depicted as black. To call Sara an Egyptian was not a literal description of her nationality. It was a Gnostic password. It was a way of saying, she is one of us. She is not a common servant. She is a holder of the Gnosis, the secret wisdom, the black wisdom of Isis. This immediately separates her from the simple Catholic story and places her at the center of the forbidden teachings. The second code is the ritual itself, the boat and the sea. Every year, on May 24th, the Romani people reenact this legend. They gather by the thousands at Saint-Maries-de-la-Mer. They carry a statue of Sara out of the church crypt and into the waves, shouting, "Vive Saint Sara! Long live Saint Sara!" This is not just a quaint folk tradition. This is a ritual. And this ritual is far older than Christianity in France. This is a direct, surviving echo of the Nautica Isidis, the voyage of Isis. In ancient Rome and across the Mediterranean, this was a massive annual festival where the statue of the goddess Isis, who was known as Isis Pelagia, Isis of the sea, and Stella Maris, Star of the Sea, was carried to the water to bless the new sailing season. The ritual in France is not just a Catholic procession, it is a pagan memory, a memory of the arrival of the goddess from the sea. The Romani are, knowingly or not, reenacting a pre-Christian rite. So we have an Egyptian woman, a holder of wisdom, who is worshipped with a ritual that perfectly mirrors the ancient rites of Isis. But the third and final clue, the one that blows the entire mystery wide open, is her worshippers and the name they give her. The people who lead this festival, the ones who claim Sara as their patron saint, are not the local French. They are the Romani people, often called gypsies. And where did the Romani people come from? For centuries they were also mistakenly called Egyptians, hence the name gypsy. But modern DNA and linguistic evidence confirms their ancestral roots are in northern India. They began a long migration west over 1,000 years ago, traveling through Persia, Armenia, and the Byzantine Empire before arriving in Europe, and they brought their gods with them. The name they give their saint, the name they shout as they carry her to the water, is not just Sara. They call her Sara-la-Kâli, Kali. This is not a Catholic name. This is not a Hebrew name. This is not an Egyptian name. Kali is the name of one of the most powerful and most feared goddesses in the Hindu pantheon. Who is Kali? She is the Great Mother, the goddess of time, of change, of destruction, and of rebirth. She is the Dark Mother. She is wild, untamed, and fiercely powerful. She is often depicted with dark blue or black skin, a necklace of skulls, a skirt of severed arms, and a tongue out, dripping blood. She is the very antithesis of the gentle, submissive, passive Virgin Mary presented by the Church. Kali represents the raw, primal energy of the universe, the chaos that creates and destroys. Why, for thousands of years, have the Romani people associated this obscure Catholic servant with a powerful Hindu destroyer goddess? The answer is syncretism. It is a brilliant, hidden act of spiritual camouflage. The Romani people began migrating from India around the 10th century. They brought their traditions with them, including the worship of the dark goddess, Kali. When they arrived in the south of France, they encountered the local ancient legend of Saint Sara, another powerful, mysterious, dark-skinned female figure associated with the sea and hidden wisdom. They did not see a servant, they recognized their goddess. They saw Kali in a new form, they merged the two, and Sara-la-Kâli was born. The Church, in its desire to convert the heathen Romani, allowed this. This was their standard strategy of evangelization. If you can't beat them, absorb them. They turned a blind eye to the pagan core of the worship, allowing the Romani to keep their goddess as long as they called her a saint. So, let's be clear, Saint Sara is not a person, she is a symbol. She is the dark goddess Kali, the embodiment of raw, untamed, primal feminine power, disguised as a Catholic saint to survive in a land dominated by the Church. Now, how does this connect to Mary Magdalene? Remember, Sara arrived with Mary. They are an inseparable pair in the legend. In many Gnostic traditions, the very traditions Mary Magdalene represented, the divine feminine, or Sophia, wisdom, was seen as having two faces. One face is the light aspect, wisdom, understanding, the bride, the mind of God. The other face is the dark aspect, the primal mother, chaos, the energy of God. This raw, creative energy was often called dynamis, which means power. In the south of France, this hidden tradition split. The Romani, with their Indian background, latched onto the dark aspect. They worshipped Sara-la-Kâli, the goddess of power. But what about the other aspect, the goddess of wisdom? The Gnostic legend says that Mary Magdalene was the Sophia. She was the one who held the secret knowledge from Jesus, as we saw in the Gospel of Mary. If Sara is the coded symbol for Kali, the raw power, then Mary Magdalene is the source of that power, the Sophia, the wisdom. Sara-la-Kâli is the first half of our code. She represents the wild, primal, Gnostic feminine, hidden in plain sight. She is the raw energy. But where did the other half of the cult go? What happened to the wisdom aspect? To find that, we must leave the Romani crypt and enter the ancient cathedrals. We must investigate the other dark statues, the ones the church itself seems to be protecting. We must decode the Black Madonna. We have just decoded the first half of the mystery. Saint Sara-la-Kâli, a coded symbol for the Hindu dark goddess Kali, the embodiment of primal, untamed power. But this is only half of the Gnostic picture. The divine feminine is not just power, she is also wisdom. To find that hidden legacy, we must leave the Romani crypt and enter the ancient cathedrals of France. We must investigate the other dark statues, the ones the church itself seems to be protecting, yet cannot fully explain. We must decode the Black Madonna. There are over 450 of these mysterious black virgins in France, concentrated heavily in the south and central regions, in the exact same territories where the legends say Mary Magdalene and Sarah landed, and where the Gnostic cathedrals would later flourish. The official story, the one the church has given for centuries, that these are simply statues of the Virgin Mary, darkened by the soot and smoke from thousands of votive candles. This explanation is not just wrong, it is provably false, and the church knows it. When many of these statues were restored in modern times, art historians and scientists made a shocking discovery. The blackness was not a layer of grime. Underneath the soot, the statues were already black. They were intentionally made black. Many were carved from dark woods like ebony, walnut, or dark fruit woods. Others were painted black from the very beginning, with dark pigment applied directly to the gesso. This was not an accident. This was a choice. The blackness is the point. So, if she is not black from smoke, the next question is, why? Why would medieval artists, in a deeply white European society, intentionally depict the Mother of God as black? The answer is not found in what they are, but in where they are. The location of these statues is the second great clue. They are not found in just any new church. They are almost always found in very specific, very ancient holy sites, sites that were sacred for thousands of years before Christianity ever arrived. Take the magnificent Chartres Cathedral, home of one of the most famous Black Madonnas, Notre Dame de Souterre, Our Lady Underground. Chartres was not built on an empty field. It was built directly on top of a grotto, an ancient druidic cave containing a sacred well. The Druids, the pagan priests of the Celts, worshipped a fertility goddess there, a virgin under the earth, Virgo Paritura, long before the birth of Christ. They worshipped a goddess of the earth. Take the stunning Le Puy Cathedral. It's built on a massive volcanic rock, a mons that was a Roman temple dedicated to a local god and a healing goddess. Take Rocamadour, another major pilgrimage site. It's a shrine built into the side of a cliff, a place long associated with an ancient, pre-Christian earth goddess. The pattern is undeniable. These are pagan holy sites. The people of these regions, the Celts, the Gauls, the Romans, worshipped powerful, female, earth deities on these exact spots, and the church could not stop them. When the church expanded across Europe, it ran into a problem. The people refused to stop worshipping their local goddesses. These beliefs were tied to the land itself, to the soil, to the harvest, to life. You cannot erase a belief that is in the earth beneath your feet. So the church used a brilliant strategy: syncretism. If you can't beat them, absorb them. They baptized the pagan goddesses. They couldn't tear down the ancient statues, so they renamed them. They came to the people and said, "That powerful female spirit of the earth you're worshipping? Oh, that was just the Virgin Mary all along. You were just worshipping her without knowing her name." They built their new cathedrals right on top of the pagan temples. But to keep the people coming, they had to keep the symbolism the people recognized. They had to keep the blackness. Why black? Because black is the color of the earth. It is the color of the fertile soil of the Nile, the chem we spoke of. It is the color of the prima materia in alchemy, the primal chaotic matter from which all creation begins. It is the color of the womb of creation, the color of the cave, the grotto, the unknown, the color of wisdom itself, born from the dark. This leads us to the final, critical connection. Who was this original black goddess? In many places, she was a local earth mother, but the one, all-powerful black goddess, whose cult had spread across the entire Roman Empire, including the south of France, was Isis. Let's look at the parallels. They are not subtle. They are identical. Isis, the Egyptian goddess, was called the Queen of Heaven. The Virgin Mary is now called the Queen of Heaven. Isis, a virgin mother who conceived her son magically, was depicted holding her miracle child, Horus. The Virgin Mary is depicted holding her miracle child, Jesus. The iconography is a direct copy. The statues of Isis holding Horus were so common that when Christianity took over, historians believe the church simply took the same statues, filed off the names, and relabeled them Mary and Jesus. Isis's primary origin? Egypt, the land of black wisdom. Isis was the black goddess, the star of the sea, Stella Maris, the very same sea that Mary Magdalene and Sarah traveled over. The Black Madonna is the second half of our code. On the surface, it is the Virgin Mary, but hidden just beneath, it is the ancient, pagan, black goddess of wisdom, Isis. And who were the guardians of this secret? Who built many of these cathedrals, like Chartres, the Knights Templar? The Templars were arrested in 1307, accused of heresy. One of their accusations, worshipping a head called Baphomet and rejecting the cross. But many scholars believe this was a cover. The Templars' true hidden faith was devotion to the divine feminine, to Sophia, wisdom. The great cathedrals they built were dedicated to Notre Dame, Our Lady. The church insisted this was the Virgin Mary. But the Templars, the Gnostics, the heretics, they knew who Our Lady really was. She was the goddess of wisdom. She was Isis, reborn. So now we have two hidden goddesses, operating in the same part of France. One, Sara-la-Kâli, a coded symbol for the dark mother of primal power, Kali. Two, the Black Madonna, a coded symbol for the dark mother of hidden wisdom, Isis. Two separate cults, or are they two halves of the same forbidden story? How do we connect them? What is the missing link that ties Kali, Isis, Sarah, and the Black Madonna all together? The link is the woman who arrived on the boat with Sarah, the woman who fled to the lands of the Black Madonna, the woman who, according to the forbidden Gnostic Gospels, was the human embodiment of Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom, the woman known as Mary Magdalene. Let's review the evidence. Our investigation has revealed two powerful, coded cults existing in the exact same region of southern France. First, we decoded Saint Sara-la-Kâli. We proved she is not a Catholic servant, but a syncretic figure, a brilliant disguise for the Hindu goddess Kali, the dark mother of primal power. Second, we decoded the Black Madonna. We proved she is not a smoke-stained Virgin Mary, but another syncretic figure, a disguise for the Egyptian goddess Isis, the black goddess of divine wisdom. So now we have two separate black goddess cults operating in the same place, one representing power, the other representing wisdom. This cannot be a coincidence. This is a pattern. What is the missing link? What connects these two powerful hidden traditions? What is the reason they are both concentrated in this one specific region of France? The answer is the legend itself, the one name that appears in both stories. The woman who, according to legend, fled persecution and landed on these shores, bringing this forbidden knowledge with her. The woman known as Mary Magdalene. To understand this connection, we must first completely erase the 2,000-year-old lie the church created for her. She was not the repentant prostitute. That was a lie, codified by Pope Gregory to silence her. So who was she, according to the forbidden Gnostic texts? According to the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Philip, and the other texts buried at Nag Hammadi, Mary Magdalene was the apostle to the apostles. She was the one who did not flee. She was the one who comforted the male disciples when they were terrified. But most importantly, she was the only one who truly understood Jesus' secret, mystical teachings. She was the one he preferred, the one he taught, privately. To the Gnostics, Mary Magdalene was the human embodiment of Sophia. Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom. And suddenly, all the pieces fall into place. Let's connect the dots. The cult of the Black Madonna, as we proved, was a secret, hidden way to continue worshipping the black goddess of wisdom, Isis. The Gnostics, who were persecuted by the church in Rome, fled. Many of them came to the south of France, bringing their forbidden gospels with them. These Gnostics, who already venerated the divine feminine as Sophia, wisdom, saw Mary Magdalene as the new, human vessel of that same wisdom. To them, Mary Magdalene was the new Isis. They couldn't worship her openly. The church had banned her, relabeled her as a sinner. So, they continued their worship in code. They hid their devotion to Mary Magdalene as Sophia inside the already existing ancient cult of the Black Madonna. Worshipping the Black Madonna, the Black Isis, the goddess of wisdom, was a coded way of worshipping Mary Magdalene, the goddess of Gnostic wisdom. The statue was their secret, their symbol, hidden in plain sight, right under the nose of the church. This explains the Black Madonna. It connects the Gnostic leader to the cult of wisdom. But what about Sara-la-Kâli? What about the cult of power? If Mary Magdalene represents Sophia, wisdom, what does Sara represent? Remember, in the legend, Sara arrived with Mary. They are an inseparable pair. In many Gnostic traditions, the divine feminine has two faces. There is Sophia, wisdom, and there is Dynamis, power. Wisdom and power, the mind and the primal energy. Sara-la-Kâli, as we proved, is the code for Kali, the goddess of raw, primal power. Mary Magdalene, wisdom, and Sara-la-Kâli, power, are not competitors. They are two halves of the same whole. They are the Gnostic representation of the complete divine feminine, landing on the shores of France. This is the symbolic, Gnostic interpretation, and it is powerful. But there is one more theory, one far more explosive, and one that fits the hidden by the church narrative perfectly. What about the forbidden bloodline? What if the name Sara wasn't just a random name? In Hebrew, the name Sara means princess. And what if Sara-la-Kâli, the Black Princess, was not just a metaphor for power, but was the literal daughter of Mary Magdalene and Jesus? In this theory, the black in her name doesn't just mean Kali or Isis. It refers to her Egyptian heritage, her Gnostic heritage, and most of all, her hidden, or royal, bloodline she carried. This would make the cult of Saint Sara even more profound. The Romani are not just worshipping a symbol of power, they are the secret guardians of the memory of the bloodline itself, the princess. This is the secret that would terrify an institution. This is the secret that explains why the church had to act. In the 13th century, in this exact same region of southern France, a powerful group of Gnostic Christians, known as the Cathars, flourished. The Cathars believed in the Gnostic principles we've discussed. They rejected the Pope, they revered the divine feminine. And many researchers believe they were the guardians of this secret, the guardians of Mary Magdalene's true legacy, and possibly her bloodline. The church's response? Total annihilation. They launched the Albigensian Crusade. This was not a normal war. It was a brutal, decades-long campaign of genocide, not against a foreign army, but against their own people. Tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands, of men, women, and children were massacred. The infamous line, "Kill them all, God will know his own," was spoken here. This was not a theological debate. This was extermination. Why such brutality? Because this secret, the Gnostic wisdom of Mary Magdalene, the power of the divine feminine, and the possibility of a living bloodline, was not just a theological threat. It was a political threat. A living heir of Jesus, or even just a spiritual tradition passed down from Mary, would invalidate the entire authority of the Pope in Rome. It would mean the keys given to Peter were meaningless. The church had to destroy it. They burned the Cathars. They banned the Gnostic Gospels. But they couldn't kill the ancient cults of the land. They couldn't stop the people from worshipping at the sacred wells. They couldn't stop the Romani from celebrating their festival. So they did the next best thing. They rewrote the story. They absorbed the cults and provided a safe, official explanation. "Don't worry," the church said. "That Black Madonna, she's just the Virgin Mary, covered in soot. That Saint Sara? Oh, she was just a servant. Nothing to see here." They hid the truth in plain sight. The Black Madonna and Saint Sara-la-Kâli are not separate. They are the living, breathing testament to the legacy the church tried to destroy. They are two faces of the same forbidden truth, the worship of the divine feminine. Whether you see her as the embodiment of wisdom, Mary Magdalene as Sophia Isis, or the mother of the bloodline, the Princess Sarah, all codes lead back to her. The church may have won the war, but they failed to erase the memory. So, let's step back and look at what we've uncovered. The official story is simple. The Black Madonna is the Virgin Mary, darkened by soot. Saint Sara is a helpful servant. But the hidden story, the story you find when you break the code, is infinitely more complex. We have revealed an entire ecosystem of worship, hidden in plain sight, a Gnostic legacy that survived persecution by disguising itself. We have Saint Sara-la-Kâli, a coded symbol for the Hindu goddess Kali, representing the raw, primal power of the divine feminine. We have the Black Madonna, a coded symbol for the Egyptian goddess Isis, representing the ancient, mystical wisdom of the divine feminine. And at the center of it all, the missing link who connects them is Mary Magdalene. She is the one who, according to Gnostic texts, was the human embodiment of Sophia wisdom. She is the one who, according to legend, brought this Gnostic heritage, this Egyptian wisdom, to France. The church, terrified of Gnosticism, terrified of female authority, launched a crusade to destroy it. They burned the cathedrals, they banned the Gospels, and they rewrote Mary Magdalene's story, turning the apostle of wisdom into a repentant sinner. They won the war, but they failed to erase the memory. The faith survived. It went underground. It hid inside the very symbols the church couldn't tear down. The Black Madonna and Saint Sara are not just relics. They are an act of defiance. They are the living, breathing testament to the legacy the church tried to destroy. Whether you see her as the embodiment of wisdom, Sophia, or the mother of the bloodline, the Princess Sarah, all codes lead back to her. The church may have buried the woman, but they could not bury the goddess. This is the power of a hidden truth. It doesn't die. It simply waits to be rediscovered. But what do you think of this coded legacy? Do you believe the Black Madonna and Saint Sara are the hidden symbols of Mary Magdalene? And what other symbols, what other sacred rituals or figures do you believe are hiding a secret that the church has tried to suppress? Let me know in the comments. We read everyone. Our journey into these mysteries is just beginning. Thank you for being part of this community.